Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and this is Sleaze, my 1973 Rover P6 V8, which is gradually getting a 4.6 litre engine slowly installed. If you are new to the channel and you're not familiar with this project, I got this car about 15 years ago. It had been sat in a garage for another 15 at least before that. So I got it started, I got it welded some more, it broke down, then it broke down some more, then I painted it black. Then the engine stopped being any good at all, so I started building a 4.6 litre out of a Range Rover to put into this car, which has been going in over the last year or so. Last time we showed this car, about 2 weeks ago, I was getting ready to prime the engine and start it, but then the oil pump was jammed, so there's going to be no oil and instant engine failure. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been faffing around with a little bit of metal at the front of this engine, which is very boring indeed. Here's the video. Driving, and we're starting this episode with some good news, because at the end of the last episode I was kind of stumped because all of a sudden the oil pump was no longer turning. But there's good news, I have fixed it and it now rotates. It's buttery smooth. It has a buttery biscuit base in the bottom of this oil way area drive system. Yeah, I'll do a quick cutaway to what went wrong. Right, I've been underneath the car and I have slackened off the 5 bolts that hold the oil pump onto the bottom of the engine, and I can now get a big screwdriver, find a peg in the top of the oil pump, and it rotates smoothly, which means that the cover of the oil pump is clamping down too hard. So I guess the gasket is not thick enough, which I guess means the gasket between the body and the shim and the pump isn't thick enough, giving enough clearance. It's going to be a fraction of a millimetre it needs. So what I've wound up doing is double stacking 2 gaskets, 2 paper gaskets in between the cover plate and the pump itself, which is that thing I took off to reach. I managed to lose the footage of this, but basically it was a massive faff involving rubber bands and screws half pegged in and about an hour of doing this fighting gravity. So now I've got a pump that turns. However, I'm now concerned that because I've got too much clearance, it won't be throwing up enough oil pressure. This is a new problem, but we'll see how this goes. But it's now done, so I've now got an oil pump, which means I can now carry on fitting the HT leads, priming the engine, putting that fan back on, and then hopefully making this thing start. Well, first up I am refitting the fan, because who wants skin on the knuckles anyway? Yeah, if you want to exfoliate the back of your hand, a radiator really is a good way of doing it. Now, to take my previously adapted oil pump drive tool and readapt it some more, so this time it does actually work. So I'm going to use my trusty adapter tool and make some changes. Right, so this is a newly adapted and frankly astonishingly hot drive gear thingamajig. So let's see if this now works. I have looked in the book, the big old Rover handbook, and it suggests this is a clockwise turning device. So we'll find out if that's correct or not in a second. I don't know if a cordless drill is going to be oomphy enough to do it, but it's a 20 volter and it's pretty fast, so... it keeps falling out. I need to go and make it narrower. That's annoying. Right, I've just ground it to a slightly finer point, so hopefully it'll hold in there a bit better this time. Oh, it's turning. It's turning. Is oil going to come out of anywhere? I don't know how long I should be doing this for, to be honest. It's definitely getting easier and easier as I'm going along. The Vaseline's definitely all gone from it, because there's a lot of resistance before and there's virtually none now. I do feel like something should have come up at this point. Now, it would appear I've gone from a high flow pump to a no flow pump. Let's pull the other rocker cover off just in case it's squirting out there and not this one. That's not good. Where's that come from? That's still coming from, damn it. So the pump was working, but where's it fallen out of? Not good. This is not good at all. Yeah, I know it's going to be like a loose bolt somewhere or something silly like that, but this is, you know, a lot of oil on the floor here. Actually, having said that, this might not be that much. This might just be the contents of the oil filter. I kind of hope it is, because that's just regular old 1040 rather than actual proper warm-up braking oil, running in oil, I should say. So looking around underneath there, I can't see any actual drips or runs, and the only place that feels wet is the bottom of the oil filter itself. I've been able to give the oil filter like half a turn with some resistance to just nip it up a tiny bit, so I'm just hoping all it was is that the oil filter wasn't as tight as perhaps it could have been, and that's the only reason it was leaking. So we've just blasted the contents of the oil filter, which is about half a litre, across the floor. I wonder how much oil is actually left in the engine now. Well, the dipstick's still showing exactly the right amount, so hopefully that's okay. Added to the pile. So I'll give this another try, but this time I'm going to be keeping an eye on what's coming out the bottom as much as what's coming out the top. Oh no, it's definitely coming out of here. I can see it coming out the back of the filter housing, but I can't see where from exactly. So the pump's working well, it's just not watertight. Which means I need to get back underneath there and do a bit more tightening up, because clearly something isn't happy. Right, so I got in there with my phone and had a look from the side, because it's really hard to see down there properly, and I could see that there was like half a wind of not done up properly on the oil filter, even though it had gone tight on the thread. So I took it off, on again, and now it looks like it's done up properly. So, second time lucky, well, third time, I can't remember how many times lucky. Right, nothing's falling out the bottom this time as far as I can see. Oh, I'm seeing bubbles. I'm seeing bubbles just here. I'm seeing bubbles there as well. It's not exactly flying up there, but it is starting to dribble. It's just weeping out just there. It might be that I need a faster drill than this. So clearly I'm getting a bit of pressure, just not enough. Right, I have an ancient one-speed drill, which may or may not be a good thing to do. I'm going with knots, but hey, it's fast. With a bad chuck, that's not good. Still only getting the same little weepy bits. I wonder why. When I did last month's junk in the trunk and Q&A session thing, someone said, "Had I bought any new tools?" And yeah, I said yes. I've got very enthusiastic and overexcited. I've got a new timing light because I thought I might be able to start the V8. Clearly that has jinxed things because yeah, well, I'm now in the situation I'm in right now. I have got multi-charger working on the bench. The old Mercedes 204 battery down here on the floor getting fully charged. And the boot of the car itself, I've got this on top-up charge as well. So that when the time comes to turn the key, I have got boost power in the battery and then boost power in the spare battery, so I can jump it without having to go and steal a battery out of another car. Anyway, now I've got to go and do the thing which I really hoped I would never have to do again, which is take the oil pump apart and repack it with more Vaseline, because it's unprimed itself. What I think's happened was, when I first turned the pump, it primed itself quite happily and started lifting oil through the engine, but because that oil filter was one thread turned back, instead of maintaining its prime and its pressure and everything, it dumped all the oil on the floor, got an air vacuum, air leak, bubble, whatever you want to call it, and so it's now sucked air into the system. It's got an airlock, and so it's no longer primed. So even though I've split the pump in half on the engine the other day, I do now need to resplit it and repack it with Vaseline again. So this is literally and figuratively exactly what I didn't want to be doing, not just today but ever. 3/8 spanner, oil filter just taken off again, splitting the pump in half again. Access is virtually impossible. You can sort of reach a couple of bolts from above, and you can sort of reach a couple of them from underneath. Jacking the car up doesn't really help because the point you jack one of these cars from is here in the dead centre, so then the jack is basically in the way once you've done that. A couple of them you can reach with, ouch, a spanner, and a couple you can only reach with a socket. Basically, it's a horrible thing to try and take out when the car engine is in the car and not on the ground. One bolt out. That only took several minutes. Oh yeah, Volvo has no hubcaps on at the moment because I am ordering, or have ordered, a new set of brake flexi hoses, but they haven't turned up yet because they haven't. But the MOT is due next week, so I will service it in the next day or two and hope I've got enough brake force to get to the MOT and not worry about it. I was very surprised actually the Volvo's MOT had run around so soon, because I thought, because of the COVID extension thing last year, it wasn't actually going to be due until August or September. Big surprise it was due in May. Now it comes. Oh god, the pump is coming apart in pieces. That's not good. Oh god, I'm dropping all bits. I didn't realise it was going to come apart quite that way. Gravity not on my side here. Oh god. How the hell am I going to put this back together again? Yep, there's no gush of oil and no Vaseline falling out, which means it wasn't primed. Right, I'm not sure this is actually going to be filmable while I do this, but I've got my gear wheel and I've got my rubber band. I'm going to try and plug everything up into the pump and then hold it in place with the rubber band, which I suspect won't work. Cool, right, I think I'm going to go cable tie that in place because that's not going to hold on the rubber band. Well, I don't know if you can see this or not at all, but the two gears are now held in place with a cable tie, which I can then snip off and remove once I've got the bolt or two in place. Pack as best I can with Vaseline, which is how you prime a Rover V8 oil pump. It's not as neat as it was previously, but then last time it was the other way up on a bench and not trying to fall out on my head. The pump cover, oil was going through it because you can see the little kind of Vaseline remains and mixed up in with actual oil, so it was kind of working at one point at least. So let's rebuild it. Right, so coming back to where I was about 2 weeks ago, I now have the oil pump fitted and primed with Vaseline ready to go. The filter is now screwed on and checked that it's very, very firmly screwed on. Everything is screwed back into the filter, into the pump. Wires are connected, not that it matters. Rubber cover's off. Let's go and see if we can prime this thing now. And the oil coming through. Oh, I can feel the weight of the oops. It's hard to do this one-handed. Well, there's stuff happening, which means it is pumping stuff. Not as much as I was hoping to see, but there is oil nonetheless. I will refer to the great and powerful Nitro Sylvia, see what he reckons, but I think that's winning. It's probably just not quite fast enough on a cordless drill. Now I believe these two rockers here, which is cylinder number 1, are set in the position of top dead centre, so the engine should be in the right place to have a go at starting. Probably not right now, it's getting a bit late in the evening, it's a bit a bit noisy to be cranking this thing over. Now I'm probably miles out, but here in the book it says that's cylinder number 1, or spark plug number 1, and it's positioning it. I'm assuming this is north and this is the front of the car, which means this is the position for cylinder number 1. I've dropped it in here, done the little thing, we turn it a few degrees back and drops it in, and as you put it in there, it does the thing. This is still in a position to be timed. It is, yep. This is locked in to the pump, so we're kind of there. Virtually ready to start. Okay, I'm not going to go for an actual start, but I just want to see what happens when turn the lights on, we get the ignition. Nothing happens when you turn the key because it's not in park. Let's try and move it into park and then see. Nothing happens, which means... So it does actually look like the lockout wires on the back of this. The fuel pump. No, there's a relay in there making a buzzy noise. That's worrying, I'll turn it off. There's plenty of flammable material in there. So what relay is that? It's making noises. It's only when I turn it to the start position it starts to make a creaky, groany noise. So I don't know what that's going to be. And turn this light on. I think it's this, whatever that relay may be. So this is the last 2 weeks of my attempts to make this old Rover work. If I was in a proper garage somewhere, I could probably knock this out in a morning maybe. Who knows, if I was like a real mechanic, but I'm not. I'm an idiot on YouTube. So now I just need to try and work out why the lockout is broken, if I can bypass the lockout perhaps. I need to do some research on that. That's going to be another bit of fun and games, but back underneath the car again. I haven't changed those fuel pipes yet, because let's just see if the thing actually runs first. It'd be much easier to do that with the car outside the garage rather than in it, and pushing it back in is not easy. So yeah, all lots of fun and games to keep going. We're getting closer, we are closer and closer every time, so maybe next time we watch this car, who knows. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again next time.